Hello, everyone, and welcome to my webinar. Just go with it, where we'll discuss more about the full width feature of Weby'nar. What exactly does it mean to have a full width website, 100% width website, and we'll play around with a few elements and see exactly the results that we have. So first of all, again, we're keeping the same theme as the freelancer that we did, where we see here that most of the time all my shapes, I do have shapes, take the whole width of the whole website. Okay, and I'm going to teach you on how to do this thing. All right, but first of all, what we need to go over is what exactly is full width. Okay, um, full width basically in a regular term takes the whole width of the website regardless of the screen size that you use. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're using a huge 40 or 52-inch screen. The fact that you're applying this function takes the whole width of the website, of the screen itself. Okay, what we need to go over right now is a few things. Okay, let's make a few things clear. Number one, full width takes 100% of the browser's width, regardless of the site size, of the screen size. Sorry, I said site size. Number two, on our studio, does 960 pixels full width? Is it 100% width? Let's have a look. Here, I'm just going to go on my page, better, sorry. And generally, what I mean by 960 pixels wide, most of the websites, their interface, the structure of how they're made is 960 pixels, meaning that from here, from these two blue lines, we have 960 pixels. How do we know that we have 960 pixels? We can simply go on settings, site presets, right here. When we click on it, you're going to see site size 960 pixels. Okay, of course you can change. You can change 960 pixels to even bigger, because I do know that some people want to use bigger websites, larger websites. Okay, me personally, I always use 960 pixels because I can use elements that take 100% of the whole width of the website. So basically, it's not relevant, meaning that you don't need to change it to bigger to make a website fit to a bigger screen size. Okay, so it's really irrelevant. So in other terms, does 960 pixels wide equals 100% width? No, that's your answer. So you don't need to worry about fixing a size for it to be 1280 pixels wide. You don't need it. Okay, the size can be still 960 pixels. On any other screen sizes, they can still see a full width website, and that's it. All right. Number three. So the idea of 100% full width is that every element having that function takes the whole width of the website regardless of the site size in Weby'nar. Okay, so let me give you an example. A common mistake when a lot of clients come to Weby'nar, they want to do a full width banner. So basically they go on the basic elements, they drag and drop the image element, they double click so that they can upload an image. All right, so let's go to documents, web projects, the freelancer, images, and header image. So it's loading, and basically what I'm going to show you right now is a very common mistake a lot of people do. The image is, oops, sorry, let me Control Z on that. There you go. So they put it to the complete top of the studio. Remember, we're only on the studio, okay? And Command Shift or Control Shift for PC users, and they click and drag it to make it bigger. And they think that, and it kind of makes sense. It takes the whole it takes the whole width of the website. So let's publish this for a minute. This is your result. So there's a difference. It doesn't take the whole size, the whole width of your website. What does take the whole width of your website? A shape. A shape has a function called fit to width. Now I just dragged it in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my design panel, and right under the position tab, you're going to see fit to width or height, but we're going to concentrate on width. So I'm going to click check. So it takes the whole width. I cannot move this element left or right. I can only move it up or down. What I want to do is, again, put the y-axis to 0, make it larger, let's say 800, and under the fill tab, I'm just going to add the background image. That background image will be my header image right here. And then we'll publish it. All right. So now you see that there's a whole difference, okay? And even better, let's make it interesting. I'm just going to press Control minus, meaning that I'm going to zoom out of the browser, and you're going to still see that it takes, you're going to still see that it takes, as here you see 80%, it will always take the width regardless on what screen size I am, okay? So this is extremely important to understand the concept of the 100%, okay? Now we do have elements that do have 100%, and we're going to review them right now. Okay, so fit to width. Here we'll apply types of full width element and what we can do with them. So number one, shapes. Okay, as you saw right now, I apply the shape. All right, so this is a shape, fit to width, and I just uploaded an image. I'm gonna put it to the top. So let's make it interesting. I'm gonna enlarge and make it 900 pixels. All right. Now, also what I can do is that you have a cool option here after the background image. It's not just it. The position, you can position the image wherever you want. You can repeat it, but you don't need it. And scroll with page, which is I know a lot of people, they consider this feature as parallax animation, but it's not. It's just that it doesn't scroll with you. If I click on no, you're gonna see I kind of zoomed in. I'm just gonna publish it so that you can see better because I'm working on a big screen. This is basically your image, but when I scroll down, you see that my website is scrolling, but not my image with it. So this is something pretty cool that you can do. All right. So everything is inside the shape. All you need to do is play around with with your features, with your properties. Okay. So we have that. Let's keep it to scroll with page. Let's add another one. 800. I think I did it for 200 or for 900. I'm not sure. This is 900. Perfect. 900. Let's color it black and change the opacity to 40, and there you go. Okay. So drag and drop shape element. This is my first element for the shapes. Under the position tab of the design panel, fit to width. I didn't put the shape correctly so that you can all see, but it's basically here. Okay. Adding a background image. Let's also play with its fitting. I showed you, and scroll with page. No, to make it more interesting so that it looks like as if you're working with parallax. Okay, so now we can also work with sliders. Where do you find sliders? Let's change that for a minute. All right. So we're not looking at the basic elements. We're looking at the galleries, and you have full width. It doesn't say slider, but it's a slider. Okay, so it automatically fits to the whole width of your studio. Again, it's going to be 900, y equals 0. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to simply double click inside, delete all these images, and add the images that I like. Let's add 3. All right, so it's uploading. This is not the image that I wanted. Let's make this. So on the gallery, inside the gallery, what I can do is that I can put a title and a description, which I need to set up through my paragraph style if I want to change the font, etc. I can replace its image, and I can link the image to either a pop-up, meaning that the image will pop up with the image itself. I can link it to a page, to an external URL, or to an anchor point. Okay, I normally set them to none if I want them to be set to none, unless you do. And I click on save, and you see that it already saves. Now, most of the time, you're not even going to use the design panel for these things. You're going to use the properties panel. So the properties panel kind of changes with every gallery that you put in. Okay. Number one, do I need narrow navigation? If I click here, I should see my arrows. There you go. No, I don't need it. I don't need the bullets. And yeah, I would like it to autoplay. Now, the image transition, I can check it to slide vertical. Okay, and you're going to see that my images slide. Okay. Also, I want to have a hover effect, meaning that when I put my mouse on the image, zoom in, for example, if I go on preview. So if I go here, it zooms in. All right, so you have a lot to play around with. You can change the speed of the hover. Okay, the transition, meaning that if you're putting text inside, hello, is it me looking for? All right, so the title vertical, where is it? Text transition. Here you go. So I can make it so that it moves horizontally, like this. Boom. All right, so you have cool animation like these. All right, so you have this option. So let's review exactly on the slides how to do it. So you drag and drop the slider element, so the full width element from the galleries panel. Double click and upload your images, adding text and description, and animate text. Where? Through your properties panel. All right. Next, what do we have? We have the fluid grid. So the fluid grid is one of my favorites. Okay, I like using it because I can do a lot with it. If I go on the freelancer, I can do basically a fluid grid like this. Okay, now, of course, it should look like this. It looks like that. All right, so how do we do this? It's very simple. All right, you drag and drop the fluid grid. So now here again, I didn't even use my design panel. I'm still using my properties panel. So I'm double clicking in it, and I'm deleting all the images. I'm just gonna add the images. 1, 2, add another image. No, actually, I just want 1, 2. 2 images, okay? On these 2 images, you see that these are 2 images. Why? And why are they set more to the left? Because if you go on the desktop columns from your properties panel, it's set to 4. If I set them to 2, then it'll take really the whole width of my whole website. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, if I want to change the image height, right now they're 50% to the one that is 50%, the other that is 50%, but the image height is in pixels. So you need to change that also. Let's change it to 600, for example. So now I need the element itself to be 600. All right. Now, pay attention because in responsiveness, it's extremely important that when you go to the tablet, you change it to 2 as well. If you change it to 1, all right, and I go right now to the tablet, I'm going to see only 1 column. These are 2 columns. If I go to the tablet, I've set it to 1 column. This is 1 column. If I extend this, I see 1 column, 1 image after the other. Let's go back to the desktop. So I want 2 columns. On the mobile landscape, I also want 2 columns, but the mobile portrait, I'm okay using 1 column. Okay, because most of the time, that's what you're looking for. Okay, now, something also extremely cool is that you can display or not display your title and your text background. So you kind of have an image, an element, a fluid grid that looks like this. Now, another cool thing that you can do, which I always use, is I always use 1 image and 1 blank image. What is a blank image? It's a completely transparent PNG image. How do we create one like this? It's simple. This is Photoshop. Let me know if you cannot see. I'm just going to create an image. New. Doesn't matter the size as long as it's transparent. Let me just refresh that. There you go. So let's do 500 by 500. Create, completely blank, nothing inside. Just going to save that. On my desktop, let's call it blank PNG. There you go. Let's go back to my platform, double click. I'm just going to take off this one. I'm going to add images. Let's go to my desktop, blank, boom. Also set it to none because it's still an image. If I click OK, I'm going to see that I have an image to the left and an image to the right. But the image to the right is completely transparent. So now I can actually put text inside. Like this. Again, you need to be very, very precise with it. Now, a very interesting question: why adding a text inside when you can put simply like this? You can just simply go here. All right. Hello. Again, is it me you're looking for? We're going to click save. Display title and description. So they're white, by the way. I just need to change their paragraph styles. So we're title style. So let's say, I don't know if page title, no, page title is white. All right, title and normal. That's basically what you're getting. So if you publish this, you're going to see it kind of pushes the text later on slightly to the left, like this. Okay, it still has an animation of zooming in. Now, the only reason why I don't do this is simply because if I want to add a button, it's not going to be in the same position. For example, right now I'm going to add a button. Should be in the same position, right? But it's not. This is the only thing that kind of bothers me. All right. So if let's say I'm changing that and I'm putting a text, a normal text. So it's perfectly centered. Okay. So yeah, so this is basically it why I'm using this kind of fluid grid, because you see that you can kind of use this. Okay, this is on the big screen. This is how normal people see their websites. So yeah, so that's why it's really cool to use this because you can do a lot with it. Now, if you want to change the image position, all you'll need to do, let's go back to my platform, double click and change it, a simple drag and drop like this. And now I just need to move the text to the other side. Simple as that. Fluid grid, drag and drop the fluid grid element. Okay. Double click to upload your image, understanding the two columns theory, one image, one blank, and playing with the text background, using it for buttons, meaning that I would just simply put a text element, a title, description, add a button, not inside the fluid grid element, but on top of it. All right, it's better, it's easier, especially when you're using buttons. Okay. Next, let's see what we have next. All right, so this webinar generally is very short. That's why I wanted to show you the new HTML iframe element, an iframe element. So recently, I don't know if you guys had the chance to use the new HTML and iframe elements, but they're really cool. So basically what they do is that generally an iframe or an HTML element is always considered as in an element, okay, that is on top of a website. It's not really part of a structure. What it actually does is that this one, the new one that we just released, it kind of forces itself inside the website so that as if it's a shape or a button, etc., etc. So it's not really an HTML element. It's really a code that you're putting in you're putting inside. So I do want to go over that. So if you go on your elements panel, generally you see this HTML element. Okay, and let's go on Google Maps. That's going to be much easier. Maps, Google Maps. All right, there you go. All right, so on Google Maps, you go to share, and you have share link and embed map. So you click on embed map. So it gives you the iframe that is in HTML, okay, or you just copy and paste this link. But let's go to the iframe. Now you can select medium, small, large, or custom size. It's not important, and I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to really, really love it. So I'm just going to copy this link and go back to my studio. HTML element. I'm going to click on properties, and I have a box where I need to paste my code. If I right click and paste the code that I took from Google Maps, I'm just going to update it. Great. There you go. Now, let's publish this for a quick second. All right, so here's the thing. This is an element, and inside I have my code, meaning that only inside I can play around with, right? Now, compared to, let's say I want to make it for it to be, okay, see on the code here, I'm going to show you, try to pay attention to the code that I'm looking right now. I see width and height. So what I want to do is that here I see 600. I want to change it to 100 and put the percent symbol, okay? And I'm going to do 100% width and 100% height. And then I'm going to click update, which is also going to update, okay? So it doesn't really, it only works within the element if I publish this right now. See, it works with the element, so I have parts of it that is cut off because it's not that good. It's not part of the website. It's just an element that is on top of my website, and inside that element we have my code. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this, delete this element. To find the new HTML elements, what I need to go to the HTML tab, drag and drop the HTML element, and paste the code here. Now on top of it, for those code savvy developers that are using Weby'nar, you can still click on advanced and put some CSS and JavaScript. There you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, fit to width. Okay. On the other HTML element, it doesn't have the fit to width function. So if I click fit to width, it's going to take the whole width of my website, and because it's 100% on both sides, now you don't see it here on the studio, but if you publish, let me go down, takes the whole width of your website. Okay, and it's cool because you can do some cool designs with it. For example, if let's say I can bring this up, what's the size of this? 650. Let's do a fit to width. Let's put it here. 650. Let's make it like this. All right. And I'm just going to copy a certain form. Put a small shadow. Publish it. I really like to show you the result. So this is basically the result. So imagine having something, a really cool design like this. All right. So this is what the HTML, the new HTML and iframe can do. So a small recap, how to do it: drag and drop the HTML iframe element, insert the code or the link, try the map like we did before. Inner page, so inner page means that it pushes the code and makes it part of the structure. So if the element where the code is full width, and of course the code has to be 100%, it takes the 100% of the whole element, which takes 100% of the whole website. And then you apply fit to width. So go ahead. Questions? Okay, so we have an issue here from Heather. A lot of elements, well, it happens when you're putting a lot of elements, and some elements do not appear exactly the same on responsive layouts. So, of course, the first thing that you need to do every time that you drag an element that you, let's say a gallery, for example, all right, I'm going to put the fluid grid, galleries, fluid grid, okay? On my properties panel, I always make sure, I mean, do I want it to be the same thing in every layout? Because of course, if you put an element here, let's put an element here, okay? This is a shape, okay? And I go to the tablet portrait, it's gonna stay in the same position. It's not gonna move at all, okay? I will need to move it manually. Why? Because I'm always working from nothing to something. So I'm working from a blank canvas, and I'm really designing the website itself from scratch. So here, if I'm working with a fluid grid, I need to look at the properties, because it can work like that, meaning that you drag it and it automatically sets to be responsive the way that you think it has to be. No, if you don't want this element to appear on all devices, not a problem. You have element visibility at the end of your properties panel. In addition to it, you have the properties of this element itself. So the properties of this element itself also give you, in addition, a way to set your desktop columns, your tablet columns, your mobile landscape, and your mobile portrait. So that if, let's say, right now we know that tablets will be 2, for example. If I go right now to tablet, this gallery will be in 2 columns, not in 4. And I know also, if I go back, that my mobile landscape will also be 2 because it's set to 2. So I go here, it's set to 2. Again, and my mobile portrait, which is the last one, is set to 1. So 1. So always verify, make sure that you look at all the functions, okay, before just putting it in, and just make sure, relax, don't worry. If you feel that the element is not working properly, of course, contact your your customer success manager. But just letting you know, it's always there. You can always manipulate it and make sure that it works out the way that you want it to work out. Okay, so we have another question. Is there a way to create one form and use it as a template for other websites? So this is a question from Heather again. For now, not yet. I understand that it's kind of frustrating because you want to use the form for many websites. We're going to release we're going to release a new feature where you can use pre-made forms, okay, pre-made designs, and all you need to do is just simply change the color instead of redesigning it every time. But we will have later on next year the feature where you can actually design a certain form the way that you want, and you can keep it to reuse on your next web design project. Okay, so we have a cool question here from Christian. On fit to width images, the cropping changes according to the screen size. So sometimes a head gets cut off in one size but looks great on another. Is there a way to control this? So yes. So let's say I'm just going to put a shape, make it fit to width. Let's close this. Put it to the top. All right. And let's add my image. No, actually, I want to use the head because you mentioned the head. So, documents. There you go. So sometimes when we publish, let's say we're just going to make it 800. Screen size. Okay, so sometimes you see it like this, sometimes you see it like this, depending on the screen size of the client. So if you go on the position, you can put it to bottom center. So it actually pushes the image up, or let's say top center, which pushes the image down. If you publish this, you're going to see that the head is really pushed down inside the element. Now, you also have the option of just setting it to center and extend this so that the whole image, when you see that the image zooms in while you enlarge the shape, it means that it had reached the maximum capacity of the height of the element. Okay, if you see here, it doesn't really resize the image, but if you make the shape bigger, it zooms in the image. That's because the image height, okay, I think we have a way to find that. What is the image height? Okay, dimensions, 1800 on 1200. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, it's already starting, I guess. When you see that it zooms in, it means that it reached the maximum size of the element. Can you make, okay, so we have a question from Francois. Can you make the map a specific size with a new HTML element? Well, yes. If it's 100%, like I showed you previously, I'm just going to click here so we can see the code. I set it to 100% on 100%. This means that it takes 100% of my element. So my element can be whatever size I want it to be. Give me a minute, so because it's right under this. There you go. So don't pay attention to the map inside, just pay attention to the size and the position of your map. We're just going to publish it. Scroll down, it's right here. All right, so we have a question. Well, not a question. It's just understanding the fit to width and the 960 pixels. So 960 pixels on your platform does not mean that it's 100%. Okay. Of course, after we finish this webinar, the recording of the webinar will be at a certain, like, I think around tomorrow, live, and we'll send it to you. And you'll see that on the first part, I basically gave an example where I put an image, I extended to the whole width of the 960 pixels of my studio, and it didn't fit to the whole width of my website. Okay, it was cut off. It was limiting itself to the borders of my studio. And the way to do it is to put a shape, an element that has the function of fit to width. The function of fit to width basically takes the element and says to the code, this element is 100% wide. And this is the function. This is the theory behind it. This is how the code works. The code works when you publish the Weby'nar website. Okay, so Patrick has a very interesting question. How would I plan the website if I'm doing everything on fit to width? So of course, again, you have a lot of webinars on how to start, and I'm gonna release a webinar on when you design a website. This is a very good question. Okay, now that I'm doing all these types of webinars on how-tos, why not make a webinar on how to plan it? Honestly, it's pretty easy. For example, the menu I put it towards the end because I like doing animations to the menu, such as parallax effect, so the webinar that I did last week. I normally go with the footer first, okay, so that I don't need to worry about the footer later on. I repeat it on all pages, on all the pages, and I start designing. Of course, when I make it responsive, it's basically how I feel that it should be responsive, especially now that I'm using a blank canvas. So I'm completely designing a website from scratch, as if it was a Photoshop design. All right, and if let's say a client tells you, okay, I want a Photoshop design, so you need to redesign it for tablet, for landscape, and for mobile. So it's basically exactly the same thing. Okay, so you're sort of redesigning as if you're redesigning on Photoshop, but it's more intuitive, meaning that certain elements that you need to put to center them, you can center them in one click. All right, so you don't need to measure all the time every element, so you can basically do it very easily in a matter of a couple of minutes. I have actually a webinar that I made a few months ago about how to make a website responsive, and it's really awesome. You should have a look, and I'm sure you'll understand more the responsive web design and how to make it happen on Webby2. Okay, very interesting question from Wim. Is it possible to have text adapt dynamically to screen size? So for now, no, but it's really in the works, and I've seen, just to let you guys know, it's coming out soon. I've seen the preview. I don't have an exact date, but basically what's going to happen is that um, when it's if let's say the shape itself, the full width shape that has the text inside, will be bigger, so the text will adapt to the size. It's going to be more adaptive, okay, more adaptive than just sitting there and you changing the size. It's going to be much more adaptive, especially when let's say you're updating text, you're putting more text, meaning that it takes more size more size inside the shape, so the shape will automatically be bigger when you, for example, put more text. So it's going to be it's going to adapt to the sizes, and it's going to be very, very, very awesome. I'm super excited for when they'll release this new feature. Okay, we have a question from Patrick. Text length on desktop sites are shorter as on smaller screens like smartphones. What can I do that the text does not roll over other elements in smaller screens? It's important that if right now I'm looking at my studio, okay, if you're looking at your website without having the website responsive on all devices, then just make sure, it's not basically smartphones that we're worried about. We're more worried about very, very small computers, okay, like mini laptops, let's say. So it's important to keep individual elements, like lonely elements. I call them lonely elements. Like this one. This is a lonely element. Okay, it's important to keep them inside the borders, because if you're putting them a bit outside the borders on some laptops, like specific laptops, like I don't know, I don't know if it even exists anymore, but very mini laptops, it's going to be very hard for them to see the website itself if your lonely elements are outside the borders. This only applies on lonely elements. It doesn't apply on full width elements. Only on lonely elements. So try to just push everything inside. Well, I mean, look, if you have a look on the freelancer website, you're going to see that all my lonely elements are set inside. Okay, except for the full width, because they take the whole width of the whole website. But it is extremely important to at least have the website responsive on all devices, so that your client can see the website itself. Okay, where can I find all the webinar videos? I'm just going to paste here if you want to go on my YouTube channel. We generally send an email, but you can also go on YouTube and type Yann's webinars with a Y. I'm going to send it to all. And there you go. Okay. Now, it's important for you guys to understand, because I keep seeing very similar questions. Okay. it is extremely important that you guys know, if let's say you're building a website from a blank canvas, meaning that you're starting from scratch completely, okay? If you want this website to be responsive, then you need to design it for it to be responsive. Okay? It's as if, for example, I'm your client, and I'm telling you, okay, please design a website for me. So you work on Photoshop, and you finish the design, and you send it to me. You send the file to me. I get the file. I also open on Photoshop, but it's not automatically responsive. Why? Because you haven't designed it so that it'll be responsive. You haven't shown me the responsiveness of the website. If you want something that is automatically responsive, we have a variety of templates that are beautiful, and you can use them for a client, for landing pages, for basically anything. But if you're designing from scratch completely, pay attention that you're really redesigning everything, not twice. Okay, of course, if you go to my responsive website webinar, you'll see how I do it on my YouTube channel, how I do it, and how easy it is to just simply push everything inside and make a website responsive in a matter of really a couple of minutes. So that's basically it. So guys, thank you very much for joining the webinar. It was really nice. I will invite you for next week's webinar. And again, thank you very much for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed it, even though it's very short. I hope it helped you a lot. I'm gonna review this. I'm gonna do again. We're really the idea of this whole webinar, this whole month's webinars is that we were able to rebuild the freelancer.webydoo.com website. And I'm pretty sure that with every webinar, I'm sure that with every webinar that I'm doing, we'll be able to recreate the whole website itself. Okay. But so again, thank you very much for coming, and have a pleasant morning, afternoon, and night. Have a good one.